Second question I have along these lines. For the Jets, what do they do? First and foremost, have they called Chase?
No.
Okay.
And
Got that one out of the
honestly,
way.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, they're looking for veteran quarterbacks. My arm feels nice and lubed up and ready to roll, baby.
What's up, everybody? Trey Wingo here with Chase Daniel as we're into episode 2 of Chasin It. We'll be here all season long. Brought to you, of course, by the 33rd team. And week 1 is in the books. And Chase, it was what we call an eventful week 1, which culminated with the unbelievable Monday night game in which a team scored more points than the other. But I would argue that no team won, because the Jets won the game in overtime, the Bills looked terrible, and Aaron Rodgers is now gone for the season. Other than that, nothing happened Monday night.
No storylines, no headlines at all.
Absolutely.
Like, what are we
insane.
doing? Yeah.
It's, I mean, like, literally, Aaron Rodgers' 2023 Jets season lasted 76 seconds.
Which is crazy to me. 4 snaps.
Yeah.
4 snaps.
No completed pass.
And all this buildup, right? All this buildup to Aaron Rodgers with Hard Knocks and Out of the Darkness Retreat and all these things. And he's like, it felt like he completely has changed who he was compared to his time in Green Bay, and, you know, became a little bit more human. He was giving really long answers to everything. He's nicer to the media. He's nicer to his teammates. And all this stuff happens. And then to see it go down like that, because, I mean, watching it live, like you, I didn't think there was anything wrong. I thought it was an ankle. He was going to tape it up, spat it up. I mean, I was literally Peyton Manning. I thought Peyton Manning did a really good job on the broadcast, because he was like, they're showing the blue tent, right?
Right.
And then they show the cart, and then he gets into the cart. Like, I thought he was in Peyton's like, holy cow. Like, what is happening? What, like, this is crazy. I thought he was just going to tape it up, get back on. Sure enough, into the cart in a boot, of all things, into the x-ray room, coming out, automatically ruled him out. And then it was the Zach Wilson show.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you hear, oh, x-rays are negative, and people are like, yeah, that's not the issue. Like, this is not the issue. And look, you hate this for Aaron Rodgers. You hate this for the Jets, because they were all in on this. But I don't know if there's a more cursed franchise than the Jets. Like, I don't know if a more cursed franchise exists. Like, I had people that I knew were Jet fans that were saying to me, yeah, I think it should work. But like we talked about last week, it's the Jets. Like, something always seems to happen. And it seems like only this would happen to the Jets. And then you get these stories coming out, Chase, well, you know, from these insiders and well, I've heard that Aaron was unhappy with the plays and the cutbacks and the roles that lead. Man, stop, okay? Stop with that. Just stop, all right? That's not why he got injured. It just popped. And quite frankly, the bigger reason why it popped is that turf has been a mess forever at MetLife. You've known this. You know, they actually, there's an article up on ESPN.com right now where they redid the turf in May because of all the injuries that people were having, and they still had the problem. I want to ask you about this first. We'll go into what this means for the Jets and what this means for the Bills and all that kind of stuff. David Bakhtiari was out there right away. And obviously, people that don't know, Bakhtiari is the left tackle for the Packers. Rodgers is his boy. They have been running mates the whole time. They've been there forever. He was like, this turf has got to go. When you saw that injury, was there anything about you that said, yes, this might be turf related?
None. No. I'm going to be completely honest with you. No. I did not think it was turf related. Now, listen, I get it. Like, guys, in every single locker room I've been in, the most whining and complaining that I've ever heard is people, let's get rid of turf, let's go to grass, okay? And I get it.
Yeah.
When you're on turf, right, like joints hurt, right? Like, your joints, it's tough, and grass is a little bit better. You might have your bones hurt a little bit, stuff like that. And that's what everyone tells me, but I do think, I mean, turf, listen, I'm not one for not agreeing with David Bakhtiari, because I do, but when it came to my mind, and I had to reread his tweet, I'm like, do you really think the turf did it? I mean, his cleat could have got caught in grass.
Right.
Like, when it did it. So I don't necessarily know if that's the answer. And listen, I get it's like it's like a rallying call for these NFL PA. And I was part of the PA for 10 years.
Long time.
I was a rep for eight. I was a voting rep for 7 or 8 years. I don't know. But it was always brought up. And listen, I play quarterback. Quarterbacks are different, right? But like if I'm a beast and I'm an O lineman or a D lineman and I'm in the trenches and something like this happens, like, yeah, okay, I get it. Grass might not have as big of an impact as the turf did, but that wasn't my first impression. But I do also want to hit on, which someone sent me this email and you talked about it, the New York Jets injury history, okay, at quarterback.
Yes.
Like it's crazy. I'm just going to read you.
It's insane. It's insane.
Okay, Rodgers' injury is just one of many New York Jets quarterbacks to suffer a major injury early in the season. Dating back to 1996, Week 1 starter Neil O'Donnell, shoulder injury in Week 6 versus Oakland, missed the rest of the season. Jets finished 1-15. Okay, 1999, Week 1 starter Vinny Testaverde, ruptured Achilles in Week 1 versus New England. Jets finished the season 8-8. Okay, 2003, presumed Week 1 starter Chad Pennington, broken left hand in team's 4th preseason game. He missed the first 6 games. The Jets still finished 6-10. He wasn't that good that year. 2005, starter Chad Pennington, torn rotator cuff in Week 3 in Jacksonville. Jets finished 4-12. 2013, presumed Week 1 starter Mark Sanchez, shoulder injury in team's 3rd preseason game. Missed the entire year, replaced by Geno Smith. Okay, Jets finished 8-8. 2017, presumed Week 1 starter Bryce Petty alert. Left knee MCL sprain in team's 3rd preseason game. Jets finished 5-11, and then Aaron Rodgers this year. Like, I thought that was wild. I know we were talking about it, but to actually get the history of it, to me, is crazy.
Well, not only that, and you missed one. Geno Smith was punched in the jaw by his teammate Ike Impanala and broke his jaw. Okay, like
I forgot about
these
that
things.
one.
These things only happen to the Jets. A good friend of mine, when they picked Zach Wilson, I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "Well, I think it's wrong." I said, "Why?" Because the Jets picked him. Like it is just what happens to this franchise. I was texting with Damian Woody last night. I said, "Bro, I can't believe it." He's like, "I'm telling you, the Jets are cursed. The Jets are absolutely cursed." And by the way, kudos to them for finding a way to win that game. And we'll get into the game and all that a little bit later. But first thing I want to talk about, you know how hard it is for anybody to come back from an Achilles. Okay? The honeymoon, we talked about it all summer. There was a love affair between Aaron Rodgers and the city of New York and the Jets fans. Poof, gone in 5 plays and 76 seconds. He's 39 years old. Okay? He's 39 years old. You know people that have had Achilles injuries. You know the commitment that it takes to even attempt to think about coming back. Is there any part of your mind that thinks we've seen Aaron Rodgers on the field for the last time because of this injury?
That's the first thing that came to my mind. Absolutely. Because of Achilles, ACL, MCL, PC, like, okay, that maybe. And to see him go out with the Achilles, like I just go back to, I thought it was ankle. And then when he put the boot on, I'm like, oh, mine goes to Achilles. And my mind immediately went to, hey, Aaron Rodgers, has he played his last snap ever? He got 4 or 5 plays in the New York Jets uniform. And to your point about the Achilles is listen, people are going to scroll Twitter. And I talk about this a lot because this is sort of a pet peeve of mine. People scroll through Twitter, okay, and they see the Aaron Rodgers injury and say ruptured Achilles. And they're
not
like,
torn, ruptured. That's a big difference.
Big difference. And they see it on Twitter and they look at it and they say, oh, yeah, he'll be back. Dude, what? Like, first of all, we are human. Like just take a step back. Like, we are human. First of all, this is a major, massive, huge injury. It's not like you broke a bone in your body and it heals in 6 weeks. This is a 10 to 12 month recovery. So even if he had surgery right away, which is not going to happen because they want to wait for the swelling to go down. But even if he had surgery right away, he misses all of OTAs, all of training, all the stuff, and he's almost 40. Like, is he going to want to put in the effort to rehab? That's a great question, and that's what breaks me into the next point, which a lot of people out there, it's getting talked about a little bit today, but he gave up $13 million.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
That's a big deal. Okay, first of all, so everyone's like, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is best. He's got all this, gave up all this money so the team can be competitive." but he gave up $12 or $13 million for 4 snaps. Like, I know at the end of the day, people are like, oh, stop talking about money. However, think of your Aaron Rodgers. You're hoping you compete for a Super Bowl. You're hoping you get a few more years in you. Now he's out that money, obviously, and he's out an Achilles, and he's probably out for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So that's the decision he has to make, and that's a tough one, right? Like Kobe Bryant, the Achilles. Like, and I get it, you're more explosive as a basketball player, and it's a little more difficult. But still, you got to move around. You got to find a way to make things work. Second question I have along these lines. For the Jets, what do they do? First and foremost, have they called Chase?
No. And honestly, I don't. Yeah, I mean, they're looking for veteran quarterbacks. My arm feels nice and lubed up and ready to roll, baby. But they haven't called. But I haven't spoken to my agent. It's still pretty early in the day. I did hear that they've reached out to some vets, so I'm guessing I'm not on the list. But
well, Saleh said we're rolling with Zach Wilson. That's the right answer. And now you have these crazy 100%. Theories out there. Okay, they should go sign Tom Brady. Let me be 100% clear. That is never happening in the history of time. Okay, that is not happening.
Could you imagine if it did though? And he went to the Super Bowl and won it, like legend, bro.
Yeah, well, can you imagine if I grew a third arm? How great that would be. Like, that's not happening either, okay? So that one's out. And then I hear, like, people that I respect saying they should really look at a trade for Matthew Stafford or get in Matt Ryan for a physical. Let's start with Matt Ryan. I love Matt Ryan. I think he's great. Matt Ryan retired last year while he was playing. Okay, I love Matt Ryan. He was certifiably terrible last year.
He was bad.
And now he's calling games, and his booth partners are trolling him with 28-3 comments.
That was funny. I don't care who you are. That was pretty funny.
It was, and he handled it well. But you're telling me you think that's an option for you? That's an option for you, that you're going to get this guy who was awful last year, hasn't played in forever, has no concept of the system. You're going to bring him in, and that's going to work? Scratch that one. Then the other one is, well, let's make a trade for Matthew Stafford. What are you talking about? They just went in and rolled Seattle in Seattle. They're feeling good about themselves. Cooper Kupp's on injured reserve. He's only going to miss 4 games that we know of at this point. He might come back. They just went in there and just, asserted their dominance over Seattle in their place in week 1 with receivers you and I have never heard of. And Matthew Stafford likes LA. This just in. Okay. He wanted to leave Detroit for a reason. He wanted to go to LA for a reason. I don't think he's going to just say, you know what, guys, the Jets may be calling. See you later.
That one's interesting though to me. That's interesting though to me. I talked to Diana Rossini this morning. She was at the game. Okay. She's with The Athletic now. She was awesome. She came on the Chasin It show, and I said, hey, can I use some of this stuff for Chasin It? Of course. And she was saying that Matthew Stafford has been talked about, like a little bit. Like, but my question to her, okay, and this is how she phrased it, which I thought was really cool, was, hey, listen, like a guy like Matthew Stafford, I threw it out there, like, because I wanted to see, because all the offseason speculation, everything that he said, that the team said, like his wife's getting into stuff, like he's not connecting with teammates. Not great. I love the Staffords, by the way. I was with them in 2020, but I would say like just move out a little bit. But my thing is like
don't tell secrets when he's talking to you in person about stuff. How about that?
Yeah, tell me about it. And so when I asked her, her eyes sort of lit up, and I'm like, she was like, well, maybe, but like it makes a lot of sense in terms of not money, because he's due an absurd amount of salary. But the Jets have done everything humanly possible to buy in for this year. It's win now and maybe win next year. They spent a ton of money. They have extra money. If they can make it work, which I don't think this is going to happen. If they make this work and we're somehow be able to get Matthew Stafford, I think it's like a genius move. Now, I don't think Matthew wants to move out of LA. I agree, it's LA.
And I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's the biggest thing. Matthew doesn't. It makes sense for the Jets. I don't think it makes sense for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. It's just an interesting conversation, because when I brought it up, I was like, I'm sure if I'm Joe Douglas and I'm Robert Saleh and I'm Woody Johnson right now, I am looking at every single possibility out there for quarterback. We just heard that they reached out to Chad Henne. Like, they are looking for a vet. Like you were going to say it, but I'm going to say it for you. Joe Flacco. Tell me why. Tell me why you think Joe Flacco's the guy.
Because Joe Flacco knows these players. It's a different system. I understand that, but he knows what Robert Saleh expects. And, oh, by the way, go back and look how Joe Flacco played last year in the first 2 weeks of the season. For most of last season, he led the league in touchdown passes because he played in 2 games. Because the Jets were terrible, and Zach Wilson did not play well. Joe Flacco makes all the sense in the world, especially if you said to yourself already, it is Zach Wilson's team, we're rolling with it. So what you're basically saying is we're committing to Zach Wilson until he completely poops the bed, which is possible. It's certainly possible. So what you need then is somebody who knows everything that you're trying to do, is familiar with the system and familiar with the players. Joe Flacco makes all the sense in the world. It's not sexy. It's not sexy. It's not flashy. It's not Tom Brady or Matt Ryan or Matthew Stafford, but it makes the most damn sense. And if you really want to be honest about it,
like it.
If you think you have something with everybody else on this team, every other thing looks great, you need someone in there that can be a backup and a bridge until Zach Wilson either gets it or doesn't, and then he can step in and win some games for you. And don't even think about discounting that. Joe Flacco could win games for the Jets right now if he showed up. I'm sorry, that's a fact.
You heard it here first on Chasin It. Joe Flacco to the Jets. Let's go.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. And these people that are like, oh, that's crazy. What were you watching?
It's not crazy at all. Yeah, it's not crazy at all.
What were you watching?
I totally agree.
Like, what's insane is Matt Ryan. Okay, what's insane is Tom Brady. Chad Henne, I guess, on some level makes sense. But Joe Flacco is Chad Henne who's been in the building. And that makes a big difference. Like Garrett Wilson last year. Garrett Wilson last year said something which I thought was really interesting when Zach went down. They were asked, well, what's the difference between Joe and Zach? Garrett Wilson said the quiet part out loud. Joe throws a real catchable ball. Joe throws a real catchable ball, which was an indictment on Zach as much as it was a compliment on Joe.
Was it a compliment or an indictment?
But that's a separate issue. That is a separate issue completely. But it tells you what the team thinks about him. So it makes all the sense. And Joe has said, I want to play. It makes all the sense in the world for me from a football standpoint to go get a guy like Joe Flacco and not shoot for the moon for these ridiculous bullshit ideas. But hey, it's the Jets. Who knows what they're going to do? Okay, so now let's talk about the other side of the equation, which is the Buffalo Bills. This was an horrific loss for the Buffalo Bills. And I put this out there on my Instagram story before the game. I said, all this talk is about Aaron Rodgers and all this kind of stuff. I want to see what Josh Allen does in this game, because if you go back and look at his splits against everybody else last year and then look at his numbers against the Jets, they were terrible. He threw for about 100 passing yards less per game against the Jets in those 2 games. His passer rating was significantly worse. His completion percentage was about 9 points lower. The Bills offense scored roughly 30 points a game against everybody else and under 19 a game against the Jets. And he had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in 2 games against the Jets and had 34 and 12 against everybody else. And what does he do last night? 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 1 of them lost. His 4 turnovers essentially cost the Bills a chance to win the game that they absolutely should have won when the starting quarterback is knocked out on the first damn drive.
Yeah, I mean, and that brings me back to my point. We were talking about it earlier. Is it a better win for the Jets or a worse loss for the Bills? I think it's a worse loss for the Bills, and for the exact reasons you said right there, Josh Allen. And I love Josh Allen.
I love him too, but let's Chase. He has regressed. There's no doubt about it. He has regressed.
And my question, and I don't know, I don't know, but I'm saying this to our listeners, is it Josh Allen as a football player, or is it coaching? Is it the new offensive coordinator, the way they are calling plays?
Since Brian Daboll left.
Since Brian Daboll left, it just hasn't quite been the same. Listen, he's got a bazooka. Everyone knows him, as my friend Mike Robb would say on NFL Network. The bazooka. He's president of Bills Mafia. But we were texting last night, and he's like, bro, what is happening? And it's the same old story for me. And and I can say this because I've played the position for 14 years. When you try to do too much at the quarterback position, it can honestly hurt you as a team. And it hurts you as a player. If you're trying to play outside of the offense, as people like to say, and you're doing too much rather than, hey, dude, just check it down and take a 2-yard gain on first down. You don't need to scramble up and throw 60-yard bomb for punts for interceptions. Like that's my thing. And the thing is, he knows it. He knows it. He said it in the post-game interview last night.
Yeah.
Like, we should get some sympathy to that, because what he said was like, it's the same old stuff over and over. Hurt my team. He said it a ton of times. He knows what the issue is. My question is, like, as a competitor, I've been in situations like that. I've been in situations where I just want to try so hard to make a play and just put it on me. Like, it's on me to make this play on 3rd and 12. If the defense is dropping to the sticks and I got a wide open flat route, I like, some part of me wants to like look the flat defender off, make a Superman throw over the hook defender into a bucket to my receiver, and I'm like, the chances of that being completed are 10%. Like, and the chances of it being an interception are much higher. And so he just has to learn. And the thing is, we keep saying he has to learn. I don't know if he's regressed skill-wise. I think he's regressed in decision-making.
Yes,
like, let's just make that clear. Physically and mentally, the dude looks as sharp as ever. I love his cockiness. I wouldn't even say confidence. I like his cockiness about him. Swagger. And his swagger. And it's a good thing to have for the team. But the biggest thing for me is, like, decision-making wise, dude, like, go back, watch the film, make it better, and he will. And this could be as easy as, like, the numbers you threw out. Like, dude, Jets, like, you have his number. That defense is really, really good. And you know, that's my two things. Is like, hey, is it coaching or is it Josh? And you've regressed a little bit in decision making.
Yeah, no question. And here's the other thing, like, and we'll move on from this in a second. There are other issues besides Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. The Stephon Diggs things is not, something's not right there. I don't know how you fix it. I don't care what they say in public. You can tell it's not right. The league has figured out how to defend Gabriel Davis. Let's just be honest about it. Okay, he's not a weapon for them right now. They have the second fewest rushing touchdowns in the NFL since 2018. That's when Joshua's rookie year. So of course he feels like he has to do everything, because not only is he's their passing attack, he's their rushing attack. They have not figured that out, and they didn't figure it out against the Jets. Maybe Cook can be that against a lesser defense, but that has not been figured out. And if you're honest with yourself, you're really honest with yourself, as good as this run has been for the Buffalo Bills, we might have to consider the reality that the Buffalo Bills, as we know them, as they're presently constructed, peaked in the AFC divisional round when they had a lead on the Kansas City Chiefs with 13 seconds to play. And it has been downhill for this organization ever since. And
that's a great point.
If you're really honest about it, that was the peak of everything the Bills had done. And then one horrendous special teams decision, followed by an incredible 2 plays by the Kansas City Chiefs. It's unraveled since then. And you just have to wonder if it's going to get any better, or this is what we've seen from this Buffalo Bills team as we know it.
No, that's a great point. And I think to your point, it's like, hey, that with 13 seconds left, everyone in America and their mom thought that they were going to win that game. And if they win that game, who knows? Maybe they're the new Chiefs. You know, and that's what's crazy about this game that a lot of people don't realize is, like, it is an inch by inch, second by second game. Like, seconds and inches and details matter, because it changes not only the entire way of players, but teams and franchises. And I mean, it's an interesting topic to me. I'm in the boat where I think it's still fixable. I think the Bills, I mean, they have to go to the Super Bowl this year, right? Or everyone's just going to be like that to me is like
literally good luck. Like,
with what's
that,
their
with all
ceiling,
the other teams
right?
in the AFC. Good luck.
Every
with
team,
that.
every team in the AFC lost this week, so it doesn't matter.
Funny. It is funny. Like,
NFC 4-0 against the AFC this week.
Did any of us expect that the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills would all lose Week 1? And I think the answer to that is probably no.
Absolutely.
But I think the Chiefs' problems are very fixable, and we'll get into that in a second. Yeah. And I think the Bengals, Joe Burrow didn't play. Like, he didn't play. You can't not play all summer long and then expect to go out there and light it up. Peyton Manning had a bursa sac injury in his knee in 2008, and he didn't take a single snap in preseason or training camp and didn't do anything. And they started 3-4. And I remember after they started 3-4, he said, it would be disrespectful to the game to think that you could go out there and not take a single snap all summer or in preseason, then go out there and play at a high level. Doesn't happen that way. That year, they ended up winning their last 9 games, went 12-4, were knocked out by one of the greatest punting games in the history of the NFL I've seen by Cyphers in San Diego. Like, he just pinned them down there completely, and Darren Sproles took one deep on a punt return, and that knocked him out of the playoffs. But that's the reason why Kadarius Toney looked like he was playing with bloody stumps instead of hands. He didn't take a single snap all season. Side note, by the way, after the Giants debacle, which we'll get to in a second, Kadarius Toney was getting bleep from Giants fans after his horrible performance Thursday night, and he was clapping back at him. I'm like, Kadarius, I can think of something better you can do with your hands instead of texting these friends of yours. How about learning how to catch a frickin' football again? But that's a separate issue entirely. And speaking of the Chiefs, the other big news that came out right before the Monday night game was Chris Jones's holdout has ended. And Chase, to that I say, he gained absolutely nothing. He gained.
Well, why do you think they leaked it during the start of the Monday night game? Because it was a crappy deal.
Correct. For those that don't know, he basically ended the holdout. He didn't get a long-term deal. He got 1 year with a little more money, but a lot of his incentives have to be met for him to receive more money. He's already missed a game check, and he's accumulated over $2 million in fines. And people need to understand, in the new CBA, you can't just wipe away those fines. You got to pay them. So it's not like they can magically say, we forgive you. It's not allowed. So when it's all said and done, Chris Jones held out all season, all summer, missed a game, and gained literally nothing because of it.
Well, the Chiefs won this one, and there's no question about that. Because not only that, Chris Jones gets nothing new necessarily, some incentives, but like you said, tied to play time. So you actually have to play. So you're hoping, knock on wood, no injury. And then the Chiefs get one of the best, if not the best, interior defensive lineman back for a very difficult game on the road in Jacksonville. So to me, the Chiefs won that one.
Listen, you've been there, they have a price on whatever they value. Tyreek went over that price. They were willing to let him go. Chris Jones thought he was worth more. I'm hopeful. Like Chris Jones has said before, I want to retire as a Chief. And I think, he was voted one of the top 10 players in the NFL last year, and he deserved it. 15 and a half sacks. He's their most important player. But the way that defense played against the Lions, again, if Kadarius Toney has hands instead of bloody stumps to try and catch the ball, Chiefs probably win that game by 10 points. Okay, he gave him a pick six, and he dropped a 3rd and 2 where he was Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks, now the Chicks, wide open spaces, room to make the big mistake. And he made the big mistake. So I think Toney will catch passes. Kelsey will come back. That's why I'm not concerned about the Chiefs. Okay, no. Kadarius Toney did not forget how to play. He just hadn't played all summer. Kelsey looks like he's coming back, and they get Chris Jones back. I think the Chiefs are going to be fine. And you said something to me earlier. You think they're going to make a statement in Jacksonville this week?
Yeah, I do. I think that all this, they've had enough time. They've had 10 days between it. And this is the thing about Coach Andy Reid is like, I don't care what the outside world is saying. I don't care that it was the kickoff game on Thursday Night Football, that 35 million people were watching, that they got upset by the Lions on banner night. Like, Coach came in the next day to the meeting, and he pointed out the mistakes that were made. He pointed out some good things because that defense only gave up 14 points. Let's just be real about that.
They played their asses off.
They played their and I love the fact that Kadarius Toney, what Andy Reid said about him this week was like, hey, we're going to put him right back out there. And to his defense, I watched it with the fine-tooth comb, okay? And 2 of the drops, sure, on KT. The one drop on 3rd and 2, okay?
Crossing route.
They were running a mesh concept, okay?
Yeah.
And 17,
James,
the other receiver, Richie James, okay, is on the right side of the screen, singled up. He is supposed to be coming at 4 yards. Okay, 4 yards depth. That's called a shallow cross, 4 yards. KT is over top of him. So, like, Richie James sets the depth at 4, okay, and Kadarius Toney should be at 6, and they should, like, ships passing in the night, no issue. If you go back and really watch that and see what happened, okay, Richie James looked like he had no idea what he was doing. He set the depth at 8 yards. And that is not that's not what's being coached right now. It's not that at all. And Kadarius Toney went underneath him or tried to go underneath him and finally ended up going over top of him. And Mahomes throws it on the hash, on the close hash. And that is not how, I can tell you that much. That is not how it's coached. Yeah. So, honestly, I think if you really look at it, I think he was throwing to Richie James. I don't think he was throwing to Kadarius Toney. So I don't fault Kadarius on that. If you have a guy like Travis Kelce, the Lions are in cover 2. There's so much depth right there. Like if
underneath
you're Travis Kelce, you're just going to sit right there at 3rd and 2 and go. Those new receivers, that's the perfect example for me of them not being on the same page and just playing within the offense. Right. They're running the lines in the install. And so that was, to me, not his fault. And the other one, the deep cross route, like it was pretty blatant. I think Patrick Mahomes missed that. I'm going to be honest with you. Like it touches Kadarius Toney's hands. But Kadarius Toney has to run back.
The pick 6 one or the one?
No. His other drop late in the game, which he's like 16, 18 yards down. But like it's behind him. If Patrick leads them, I mean, listen, everyone misses throws. I'm not trying to. Patrick Mahomes is like one of the better quarterbacks to ever play the game.
Chase Daniel's hot take. Patrick Mahomes is the problem with the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that throw right there. That throw right there, to me, it was like, oh, he could have let him. Like, of course he wants that back, but you got to handle the ball if it touches your hands as a receiver. But anyway, I digress. Going on to Jacksonville, I do think that the Chiefs will go into Jacksonville and make a statement. And why do I say that? Well, they've had 10 days to just do their own thing and game plan. Now, this Jacksonville defense is legit. Okay, and they're really good, and the Chiefs have gone into Jacksonville before and beat them. But my big thing is like the key to the game, honestly, will be hopefully Travis Kelce plays whatever. Can the Chiefs pick up their the Jacksonville Jaguars blitzes? Like they're going to be bringing 2 aside, 3 aside. They do all sorts of stuff. They're a junk ball, is what we like to call it in the quarterback room. They're a junk ball defense, which means you don't really know what they're going to play. They play 20% cover 2. They play 20% cover 4. They play 20% man, 20% pressure. So you got to have like a good versus all schemes. And if you look historically with Andy Reid against junk ball defensive coordinators, he loves GVA, good versus all plays. And that just gives Patrick Mahomes, whatever they do, I have an answer. He's going to put a full game plan of that. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs' problems are very fixable. And that's why I'm not concerned about them. I also think the Bengals' problems, for the most part, are fixable. Joe Burrow hadn't played. Like Cleveland just kicked their ass. In fact, let's go there. I might have been more impressed with Cleveland than any other team on week 1. And we'll get into the Niners and the Cowboys in a minute. But Cleveland, they heard that bleep from Jamar Chase. And after the game, he said, I can't believe we lost to a bunch of L's. Bro, you didn't lose. You got your asses kicked. Like you got physically dominated. That video of Myles Garrett just swaying back and forth. I'll go left. I'll go right. That was the definition of a guy who goes, I can do whatever I want, and you chumps have no chance of stopping me no matter what I decide to do. Like, it was great. And Cleveland is a team, and we've talked about this, Chase, a little bit. Nobody's like keeping an eye on them. They have playmakers everywhere. And as long as Deshaun Watson isn't terrible, and let's be honest, last year he was terrible, but it was the rust and all the other stuff that he brought on himself, which I understand. If he's not terrible, they have a chance to be really good. He threw a terrible interception in that game. But if Deshaun Watson can come anywhere close to 2019 or 2020 Deshaun Watson, Cleveland's going to be a problem for people.
Well, Nick Chubb too, right? Don't forget about him. Like Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb's still top 3 in the league.
The entire defense on every level has playmakers.
Well, and that's something that I think that I mean, yeah, they got to be good on offense, and I think they're going to be great. Stefanski always has interesting game plans, lots of motions, lots of run, like big, heavy personnel groupings, let Deshaun get empty, mess around a little bit. But the most underrated point of this entire offseason, now that I know that it's week 1, is the signing of Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator. He's the first defensive coordinator in the cycle to fall, and quite honestly, looking like the best. I was with him in Philly in 2016 and loved him as a coach. And why did I love him as a coach? Well, I loved him because he was so confident and so much swagger, where he resonated really well with the players. And as soon as you can resonate well with the players will have belief in you as a play caller. And his big thing, and that front is probably overall first team to third team defensive fronts. That Cleveland front is probably the best in the league. Like, all he says in those meetings, he doesn't pressure a lot. He doesn't care about all that. He likes 4-man rush. He does not care about anything else other than getting to the quarterback. Like, go and sack the quarterback. I don't care if it's a screen. I don't care if it's a draw and we give up a 30-yard screen. It does not matter. Like, you were looking at Joe Burrow, looked completely overwhelmed. I mean, and that's a retooled offensive line in Cincy too, right? Like, it's a good but that front, I mean, they are going to be so good if they can just string some games together. I mean, it's a tough division, but man, that's probably the most impressive thing to me was on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Orlando Brown might not be the answer at left tackle. Just want to throw that out there as well. He got worked in that game, and Chiefs fans are like, told you. But I'm glad you mentioned Jim Schwartz because, to me, outside of the Aaron Rodgers news, I think the two things that I really took away from week one was how important some coordinators can be. And you mentioned Jim Schwartz, and you cannot overstate how important Dan Quinn is to the Dallas Cowboys as their defensive coordinator. And he was a decent head coach, and I'm sure he's looking for another opportunity. But I respect him because he's like, you know what? This is what I do. This is who I am. This is how I made my living as a head coach. This is how I got into the league. This is how I have my opportunities. I'm a defensive guy. And I'm telling you what, Dan Quinn unleashed, he was like Mr. Burns from the Smithers, released the hounds against the Giants, and they just got whooped. I want to read you something that I thought was just hilarious, okay? And I got to give a shout out to Opta Sports, the account on Twitter, because this is the place that I got this from. I want you to listen to the things that happened for the Cowboys against the Giants in that game. And it's absolutely insane. In the history of the NFL, okay? In the history of the NFL, which goes back over a century, no team in a single season had ever lost 40-0 or worse, lost a sack battle 7-0 or worse, lost a turnover battle 3-0 or worse, had a blocked field goal return for a TD, and threw a pick six in the same season. The Giants did it in one game. They did all of those things in one game. They were annihilated by the Dallas Cowboy front seven. So we'll talk first about the Cowboys. How good can they be because of that defense? Look, Dak is not going to turn it over, I don't think, as much as he did last year, and we can get into the offense. But if that defense can be this good, how good can the Cowboys be?
I mean, they can be Super Bowl champions. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, that offense will get going. I don't think we learned anything at all from that offense on Sunday night. But what I do know is that defense is a game plan nightmare. It all starts. I mean, listen, every position is loaded. But it starts with Micah Parsons. Let's just be really, really clear about that.
He's insane.
And it starts because he lines up every which way. Like I saw one of his sacks that he was lined up, so they overloaded the front to the left. He lines up, there's three guys, he lines up in the middle on that left side, and they got a little stunt game going. He gets double teamed and said, no, I'm going to come off the double team, loop around, and go sack Daniel Jones, before like 2 seconds, which is very fast to throw the football. So I think what Dallas brings is just that Dan Quinn, man, like I agree with you, like Dan Quinn is a home run keep, right? Because he was trying to get the head coach cycle, whatever. Yeah. But that defense is just a mismatch nightmare. Like you go into a game planning week if you are, say, Sean Payton, okay? Just because I played with him for 7 years. The biggest thing Sean Payton does early in the week before he even thinks about the coverages you're playing or how he's going to attack is the very first thing, and he's probably the best I've ever been at putting a protection plan together for a squad, is he goes in and he looks at, hey, do we have any amazing like bull pass rusher types? Okay, he would say, yeah, Micah Parsons, you're the guy. Every single thing he does, especially in this first 15, but every 3-step, 5-step play action run game will be to affect Micah Parsons. That is the type of generational talent that Micah Parsons is. Right, he's going to be there making sure that, hey, in a first 15, we need a cut block, like tight end, go cut block them across the formation. Hey, we need 3 guys here on Micah. I don't care if there's one-on-ones across the board. Like even if it's a 5-man front and you're saying, hey, we need to go and we need to have 5-on-5. We call it 5-0. No, sometimes we need to go put a running back and a tackle on Micah. Like he would be doing that. So the amount of mental gymnastics going through an offensive coordinator's head going into a week that you're facing the Dallas Cowboys defense, not only Micah, but everyone else on there is outrageous.
Yeah. Okay. So take me through this, right? Because listen, the Giants, I don't think are that bad. Everything went wrong, and it just got downhill, and it snowballed on them. They're not going to give up a blocked field goal for a touchdown the other way, and a pick six, and a fumble by Deron Blandford. Like, thank you, by the way, Cowboys special teams and defense really helped me fantasy week one. But
so that's the tweet I put it out. I'm like, whoever had it is amazing.
Yeah, this guy right here.
This guy
so,
right here.
Chase, take me through it. We've all been there as players. You've all been there. You've gotten your ass kicked, and you know you got to go in and watch the film. What's it like knowing when like it's going to be the most like the game was bad enough, right? And the coaches always say after the game, we got to move on to the next thing. We're on to Cincinnati, whatever. And you know that's not true for you guys because you're going to have to sit there and watch that damn film, and they're going to kick your ass vocally the entire time they're watching the film. What is that like for a player? They make you watch that shit, and they just get on you so badly.
Well, it's not the favorite thing in the world for a grown man to have to eat the medicine, right? It's probably like people. I liken it to people like going out and just getting absolutely crushed in their job. Like a boss comes in and you're a salesperson and you don't meet your quota, and say your quota is $1 million in sales and you have $100,000 in sales, and the boss just like completely rips you a new one, and it's just like, but it's times 10 because guys that put it's not about effort. Like that's what I'm trying to get to. It's not about effort. So like the effort was there for the Giants, but when the Giants offense came in and watched that film, like the first thing you got to be as a player is you got to take accountability for what you put on tape, because you only put on tape something once a week. Right? And what you put on tape is what you are. Okay. And of course there was like a perfect storm. We've talked all about it. Like, hey, this isn't exactly who we are, but it's something that's not fun. And that's probably the worst part of the game, because you only play the game. I mean, if you're lucky, like, three preseason games, 17 regular season games, and hopefully you get a bye in year 3, so 24 times maybe the max you can put on film.
Right.
And when any of those times is embarrassing, like I would use the word embarrassing, like it stings, because the other 31 teams get this tape, and the other 31 teams,
especially if it's a primetime game, especially if it's a primetime game.
Yeah, and especially if you're in New York media, it makes it even worse, right? But like when you go into the film, I've been a part of that, and I've been part of that where, I mean, take for instance, I can talk from experience, the 2018 or 2019 London game. Okay, Mitch Trubisky was hurt. I think it was 2019.
Oh yeah.
Mitch Trubisky was hurt, and I came in against Minnesota, and first drive touchdown. We ended up smoking them that game. Had a really good game, threw for 200 yards. Had a touchdown pass and just ran the offense really well. Feeling really good. We go to London, which is a whole different dynamic in terms of logistics. But we go and we're playing the Raiders. We're down 17-0 at halftime, and we go into halftime, and I'm just like, oh, it's like almost like a middle film session. Like it's like, what are we doing? It's like you're getting your butts kicked, and then you go out the second half. We ended up clawing back to make it 17-17, I think. Through 2 third-quarter touchdowns, and they go down, have a crazy punt return, and end up kicking a field goal 2017. I'm like, this is my chance. Like it's a 2-minute drive. There's 2 minutes to go. Start off with a huge completion to Allen Robinson on the left side, and I throw on like the next snap or 2 other snaps. I throw the worst interception of my entire life. I just float. I float a corner route, and there's nobody there. The corner's sitting there, fair catching it. Like, here you go, Chase. And my heart sinks, because not only did I let down myself, I let down my entire team. I let down like, you think of all that stuff. So all that, the reason I say that, because all that goes into it, then you have to watch it the next day, and you're just like, I just want to move on. Let's just get to the next game. Yeah. Like, that's the best thing. That's the best thing about baseball, is like you go 0 for 3 or 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts, the golden sombreros they like to call it, and you move on. You can play the next game, go 2 for 4. Like, oh, I'm betting 500. I'm good. Exactly. That is not the case in football. Like, you got to wait a whole nother week. You got to take the medicine, and you got to move on. It's awful.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's get to the Giants, because you and I have a difference of opinion here. You think the Giants are salvageable, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. And let me tell you why. Okay. I think we all know what Daniel Jones is. But more importantly, I think we all know what Daniel Jones isn't. Right? Like you see Joe Burrow struggle. He's like, okay, T. Higgins didn't have a pass. Well, okay, that's not going to happen a lot. Joe's going to get back into rhythm. Boyd, Higgins, Chase, they're going to get theirs. Mixon's going to get mixed up. They'll figure some protections things out. They're going to be fine. Same thing with Kansas City. Kadarius Toney had some drops. Richie James, new receiver, didn't quite understand the mesh point. They can figure that. Those are workable things, and they have talented players. And they get Travis Kelce back, and they get Chris Jones back. For the Giants to be good, Daniel Jones has to be above average to good. And for him to be above average to good, everybody else has to play great. Yeah. I do not know where that offensive line is going to go and how much better they can be. And that's a problem. That's a problem for me. Darren Waller had the hamstring issue. He didn't exert himself. Like for the Giants to be really, really good, everybody has to really help Daniel Jones. And I'm not sure if they have the horses around Daniel Jones to really help him in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, now can I change my answer to what you said? No.
Well, you're welcome. I just ran rings around you logically, so you're welcome.
My whole thing is like, I hate, and we're not really doing it on this show, but I hate overreaction.
Oh, thank you.
Monday,
100%,
Tuesday,
100%.
Wednesday shows, and I'm not saying you're doing it at all because you have very logical points. That's why we're doing the show together. But the thing to me is like it's one game, and we were texting during this game. We were like, it's the perfect storm. Like it's crappy weather, the rain game, all that stuff. I would agree with you on the offensive line. Like that, if I have issues with the Giants, I'm not going to point at Daniel Jones right away. I'm going to point at that offensive line because the offensive line play has not been good. Let's be real.
Terrible. And let's be honest. Let's be clear. For the Giants' offensive line defense, they're not seeing the Cowboys but one more time, okay? That Cowboys defensive unit is
It's not special. The best unit to start with.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll give them a pass there. Yeah. I'll give them a pass.
And like the thing for me is like Daniel Jones, maybe I'm bullish on the Giants because of Mike Kafka.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I can understand, and I've been with the system with Andy Reid because let's make no doubts about it. It's Andy Reid's system mixed with the little Buffalo Bills and Dayball. He gave him full go when he went away from the Chiefs last year. Like he said, "Hey, Kafka, you're running the show," and I just know that type of coach under Andy Reid, they find same with Eric Bieniemy. They find they won week one, as well. Yeah. They find ways to make your weaknesses not as weak and your strengths even more stronger. And there's something to be said about that. Like in that offense, I remember meeting with Andy Reid and Alex Smith when we were there. If there was anything that Alex Smith didn't want, it's not in the game plan. It's the same thing with Daniel Jones. If he's not comfortable with it, Mike Kafka's not calling it. Now, I do think that he has to continue to progress. He got paid a lot of money. But I just listen, the Darren Waller and Saquon Barkley thing, like I really like that's to me who you have to continue to feature. And I do think Winkendale's defense is really good. Like we learned nothing about their defense.
Yeah.
First of all,
Wink Martindale.
Wink Martindale.
Winkendale was very good. I don't.
There you go. Wink Martindale. Yeah. There you go.
Also
Martindale.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. We'll edit that out. But yeah, just
no, we're going to keep it in just for that. For that reason, we're keeping it in. All right, listen, I know you got to run, so I appreciate your time. I just want to let everybody know that I'm here in your old hometown right now. I'm down in Dallas, Texas, playing with a couple of golf buddies and a couple of my college roommates. We're all turning the big 6-0 within a couple of weeks of each other, and we decided to act like fools for a few days because why the hell?
You deserve it. You deserve it.
There you go. So what's your favorite golf course in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Man, there's so many. Honestly, like I'm not a big golf snob. Like I like the community courses around there. We play at Grapevine Municipal, and I'm telling you, it's the best $30 course you've ever had. They have 319s. It's right by the Dallas Cowboys course in Grapevine.
Cowboy course.
I'm not one to be the country club snob that's going around. Like we played Grapevine Municipal early on. I know. That's why I'm saying it because your nice little collared polo and your hat, and only play the plantation course in Maui and this and that. But I would say like we used to go there in high school, play 18 holes, and then head right to Grapevine Lake and on a boat. So it was
There you
awesome.
go.
But I will say, you got to get some Tex-Mex, because Tex-Mex, I don't care about what anyone says. I live in California full time now. It's not the same. It's better than Mexican food.
Guess where I'm going for dinner tonight? Just guess.
Mi Casina.
Oh, well, that was the other one. We're going to Javier's.
Dude, there you go. No, done.
We're gonna have it big at Javier's, and we're gonna.
You guys are such snobs. Look at y'all, Javier's too. After playing country club golf,
Northwood Golf Club,
of
side of the
course.
1952 U.S. Open.
Humble
Excuse
brag.
me. There you
Humble
go. Yes,
brag.
actually, it's just a brag. It's really just a brag. All right, brother. I know you got family commitments. I appreciate you being with us this week, and we'll do it again next week, and hopefully we'll figure out some more bleep along the way.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.